You ever walk into a room and feel your entire world collapse in a single heartbeat? It was a rainy Thursday afternoon, the kind of day where clouds hang heavy in the sky and the air smells like wet concrete and old regrets. I'd gone to my mom's house to drop off her prescription. She was visiting my aunt out of state, so I figured I'd beat the traffic, drop it off early, and maybe crash there for the night. Daniel had told me he was working late, and after the week I'd had, I wasn't in the mood to go home to an empty apartment. I wasn't expecting to find my fiancé on the couch with my younger sister, tangled in a kiss so passionate, so intimate, it took me a moment to register what I was seeing. I froze in the doorway, umbrella still dripping on the mayo floor. The sound of the rain outside was drowned out by the ringing in my ears. Lily, my baby sister, jerked away like she'd been slapped. Daniel stood up, eyes wide, his face draining of all color. "Emily," he stammered. This isn't Emily. "It's not what it looks like," Lily chimed in, her voice too high, too panicked, her lipstick smeared and her hair a mess. I didn't speak. I didn't scream or cry. I just turned around and walked out. My chest burned. My throat was tight. I don't even remember driving home. Only the sound of my heartbeat thundering against my ribs. My name is Emily, and this is how I found out that the two people I trusted most, my fiancé and my sister, had betrayed me in the most brutal way possible. Daniel and I had been together for 5 years. We met in college. He was quiet, kind, thoughtful, the kind of man who opened doors and remembered your coffee order. He made me feel seen, like I mattered. For a girl who had spent most of her childhood trying to shrink herself to avoid conflict, being loved like that felt like magic. We got engaged 2 years ago. The proposal was simple but sweet. Just the two of us on a snowy night, candles flickering, hot cocoa in hand. I cried, of course. I thought we were building a life. I thought I was safe. And Lily? She was my person. We were only 2 years apart, and growing up, we were inseparable. She was louder, bolder, brighter. People were drawn to her like moths, to flame, and I was content to orbit around her, the quieter sister with a shadowed glow. But we shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams. I never imagined she'd want something that belonged to me. Especially not him. The next day, I blocked them both. I didn't answer calls, I ignored texts, I stopped going to family dinners. I wasn't ready to face the world that had cracked in half beneath my feet. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the silence that followed. My parents didn't scream at Lily. They didn't disown her. My mom cried, sure. My dad tried to call me once or twice, but when I didn't answer, they stopped trying. Instead, they did what they always did: swept it under the rug and hoped I'd just come around. Family is messy, my mom told me when she finally came by to talk. But it's still family. She said it like that meant something, like that made it okay. It was a mistake, she added softly. You and Daniel were having problems. I stared at her, mouth open. Are you seriously blaming me? No. Sweetie, she said quickly, but her eyes didn't meet mine. I just mean, people do things when they're confused. Confused? They weren't confused. They were calculated. 3 months passed. Silence. Then, one afternoon, a mutual friend messaged me, "Have you seen their post?" I hadn't. I clicked the link with shaking fingers. There they were, Lily and Daniel, arms around each other, smiling like they hadn't set fire to my life. A ring glittered on her finger. My ring. The caption read, "We know it's unconventional, but love finds a way." I dropped my phone. It didn't matter that my therapist said closure would come, that friends told me I'd be better off, that strangers on Reddit validated my anger when I vented anonymously. What mattered was the ache, the open wound, the utter helplessness of knowing the people who hurt you were not only unapologetic, they were celebrating it. And then came the invitation, a thick ivory envelope, gold embossed, elegant, formal, the kind of wedding you see in magazines. I opened it with numb fingers. I don't know what I was expecting, but certainly not this. Dear Emily, it read, we would love for you to join us in celebrating our special day. Your presence would mean the world. I read it twice, 3 times. Then I laughed. And I laughed hard. Not just at the audacity, but at the cruelty of it. They knew what they were doing. This wasn't about forgiveness, this was about image. About pretending things weren't as ugly as they were. They thought I'd be quiet. They thought I'd disappear. They were wrong. I didn't go to the wedding rehearsal. I didn't respond to RSVPs. I let them believe I was gone, out of their lives for good. And then one night, scrolling through Lily's Instagram again, I saw a story she posted. A selfie. Her in my old dress. The dress I once bought for my engagement party. Her wearing it like it meant nothing. Captioned, "Nothing can ruin this for us. Forever love." That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not anger, not grief, clarity. Because I realized something. They might have stolen each other, but I still had something they didn't. The truth. Daniel's old cloud account was still logged into my iPad. He never changed his password. Lazy as always. I opened it out of impulse just to look. What I found was gold. Photos. Messages. Dated timestamps. Evidence. Messages that proved their affair started long before the breakup. Screenshots of them. Mocking me. Her telling him I was boring. Him calling me too emotional. Her laughing about how easily I trusted people. I felt sick, but I wasn't crying anymore. I was planning, because if they wanted to invite me to their wedding, then I would come, not in a dress, not in heels, but with something far more powerful. Truth, and I would wait. Wait until the moment mattered most. Wait until their perfect little fantasy was seconds from becoming real, because some stories don't end with forgiveness. Some end with justice. And mine was just getting started. The day of the wedding arrived like a storm. Not the wild, angry kind with thunder and hail, but the silent, suffocating kind, the kind that looms in the sky like a threat, heavy and thick with something unsaid. I hadn't slept the night before. Instead, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every cruel thing they had said in those texts. The way Daniel laughed about my cooking, the way Lily dismissed our childhood memories as emotional baggage. They weren't just in love. They had rewritten me as some pathetic side character in their fairy tale. But I wasn't a side character. I was the truth they tried to erase. And today, I'd remind them. I arrived at the venue, some glassy, expensive event hall nestled against the hills, an hour before the ceremony. I wore a simple black suit, nothing flashy, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. I walked in like I was meant to be there, because I was. Security didn't question me. I was still, technically, family. And besides, everyone was too distracted. Florists running late, makeup artists fretting over Lily's eyeliner, Daniel pacing near the altar with fake nerves. I watched from a distance as guests arrived. Family, friends, mutual acquaintances. I saw my mom in a lavender gown, face tight with controlled emotion. My dad looked older than I remembered, a hint of shame in his eyes. They hadn't expected me to come. Good. That made it better. The ceremony was set to start at 4 p.m. At 3:57, I slipped into the back row of the small chapel area, heart steady, hands calm. I held no folder, no mic, no dramatic suitcase. Just my phone and a single flash drive. It had everything. Screenshots, messages, photos, audio clips of Daniel talking to a friend about finally being free of the clingy one. Lily joking about how I could never hold a man. Things no sister should ever say. Things no fiancé should ever feel. A friend of mine, Noah, was working AV at the venue. He owed me a favor. I'd designed his wedding invitations for free a year ago. When I'd asked him to play a video I sent him at a very specific moment, he hadn't asked questions, just said, "You sure?" I was. The music swelled. Lily walked down the aisle, glowing, radiant, dressed in white lace like some vision of innocence. She beamed. Daniel looked at her like she was made of light. I almost laughed. The priest began his speech, talked about love, commitment, honesty, the usual lies. Then came the moment. "Before we proceed with the vows," the priest said, "the bride and groom have prepared a special video message for their guests, a celebration of their journey together." Lily turned to Daniel, surprised. Daniel blinked. I didn't. The screen behind the altar lit up. First, a photo. The three of us, me, Lily, and Daniel, from my birthday, 2 years ago. Then, a series of screenshots, their texts, the ones that proved they'd been sneaking around for over a year before the breakup. Then, a video clip, Daniel's voice, clearly recorded. I mean, I stayed with Emily because she's safe, you know? Predictable. But Lily? God, she makes me feel alive. Lily's face drained of color, then her voice followed, laughing. Emily's sweet. But let's be honest, she's always been basic. Like, dollar. Store vanilla, gasps erupted. My aunt clutched her chest. A child started crying. And then, silence. I stood up slowly, walked down the aisle toward the front, phone in hand. People parted like the Red Sea. Lily looked at me, shaking, mascara smudged, frozen in place. Daniel opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "Don't," I said, calm, cold. "Don't pretend this wasn't real." I turned to the crowd. "I'm sorry for interrupting. But since I was invited, I figured you'd all want to know the truth before watching them lie to each other in front of God." More gasps. My mom put her hand over her mouth. My dad stared at the floor. Lily tried to speak. "Emily, please. I trusted you," I said. "Both of you. I loved you both. And you made me feel like I was nothing. But today, I get to be the voice you tried to silence." Daniel lunged for the AV cables, trying to yank them, but it was too late. The damage was done. The priest cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps we should take a moment." "No," I said, turning to Daniel. "Go ahead. Finish the vows. Tell her how much you love her. Tell her again how you only proposed to me. Because you felt trapped." He stepped back like I'd slapped him. Lily sobbed now, the image of her crumbling fairy tale. I turned on my heel and walked out, but not before saying, "I hope the cake tastes as bitter as the lies." Outside, the sun was setting. It was beautiful. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I smiled. I left the venue and went straight to the beach. Sat there barefoot, watching the waves roll in, phone buzzing with missed calls, texts, voicemails. I turned it off. That night, my story blew up online. Noah had posted the video anonymously. Reddit ate it up. So did Twitter. Sister sabotages. Wedding with truth bomb. The headlines read. People called me a hero, a savage, a legend. But I didn't care about going viral. I cared about being free. The next day, Lily called me 30 times. I didn't answer. Daniel emailed me some long-winded apology that read like AI wrote it. My parents sent flowers and a note that said, "Let's talk when you're ready." I wasn't. Weeks passed. The wedding, I later learned, was canceled. They tried to reschedule. Few guests RSVP'd, vendors pulled out. Apparently, Daniel lost his job shortly after. His company didn't want the PR mess. Lily moved out of state. I heard rumors they were on a break. Maybe they'll get married someday. Maybe they'll pretend this never happened. But I won't, because I got my closure. Not with revenge, with truth, with power, with knowing I didn't let them rewrite my story. I started therapy again, focused on myself, took a solo trip to Italy, sat in quiet piazzas, sipping espresso and laughing with strangers. I even started dating again, carefully, slowly. Not every story ends in pain. Some end in rediscovery. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed by a lover, a sibling, a friend, hear me. You are not weak for feeling broken, but you are powerful for healing anyway, and sometimes the best revenge is never looking back.